Hey everybody, happy Sunday night. Today is June 8th, 2025. This is Across the Pitch. We don't really have our normal post-game show this week because all we had was an Atlas friendly, but surprisingly, there's still a lot to talk about. And today I'm joined by Jillian Albany from the One Team We Agree On. Now, Jillian, I know you, Kyle, Todd, Jose, Dave, we always have a collection of people coming on, but you in particular, I was super excited to talk to today because one, we saw a lot of Union 2 and Atlas, so we want against
Mhm.
Atlas yesterday, so we wanted to talk about those players. But I know you're a big fashion person like myself when it comes to Union
Mhm.
gear, and I feel like we have a lot to talk about regarding the Union 2 attire that we saw in the pro shop yesterday. So, if you give us an introduction and how are you doing and how was your weekend so far?
Doing well. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Yeah, it was a busy day yesterday because we had a swim meet in the morning. Kyle and I were coaching at a meet at Phoenixville, and then our friend Dave, who is coach of Phoenixville Y, he joined us at the game, and he and Kyle were in the river end, and I was in the press box covering that. So, busy day with that. But for anyone who doesn't know me, I'm with the One Team We Agree On, and yeah, we've been putting out lots of content with Union and Union Two, and so definitely with a lot of Union 2 players in yesterday, plenty to
Hmm.
talk about with that. So it's really exciting to see them get some time, especially see Marcus and Eddie score, which sure we'll get into. But yeah, that was pretty big. That was cool to see.
Absolutely. So, I mean, this whole week felt a little bit weird, right? There was no union
Hmm.
match to prepare for. I mean, how did you enjoy your non-union-ish week? Because for me, it felt a little bit more relaxing. Like I kind of kicked my feet up a bit, not having to worry about a match on Saturday.
Yeah, well, for me, I'm a swim coach, I'm a teacher, and it was the last full week of school. So winding down, I have a half day tomorrow, and then I'm done. So just it was nice to kind of have a little bit of normalcy, although our
Yeah.
pool had an issue where we coach, so I'm having to shuffle things around there. But yeah, it's been May was super, super busy with games Wednesday, Saturday, Wednesday,
Hmm.
Saturday. So it was nice to have a little bit of a break from that.
Exactly. Same for me. It was just a little bit of shift of things. Obviously, we both found ourselves at Super Park yesterday, but it just has a different vibe. Before we get into the topics, though, Joe joins us. Hello, and Valerie joins us as well. And she also said, "Nice jersey, thank you." This is the white Annapolis Blues kit that I got on the game on Wednesday. I went with our friend Polomy to the game. We went out to dinner, watched the game, we watched the women's match, and it was actually a really great time. So if you've never been to an Annapolis Blues game, I already got hooked off one match, so I definitely want to go back again. But let's talk about a few things. Let's start with the international duty. Jose Nunez, who is not joining us tonight, has just put out an article. I think it was today or yesterday about all the players at international duty. So I'm just going to go through his article really quick to kind of hit on the key things here. And I guess Jillian, if you want to chime in too
Mhm.
on some of the players we're talking about, probably one of the players that we have the most attention on is Andre Blake. Jose mentioned his article that they had a 1-0 win against the British Virgin Islands. But most importantly, Andre Blake had only 3 routine saves, no issue with the knee. Any sense of relief there, Jillian, that he kind of got through that first round a-okay?
Yeah, actually, I was really relieved to hear that he had minimal things to do. He came out unscathed. Sigh of relief. I'm happy for Andre. That's such a big honor representing Jamaica, but let's be honest, I think a lot of people are like just kind of holding their breath, like, come through unscathed, please, Andre. Don't get hurt. And so, hey, it was great to hear that things went well for him.
Exactly. And his next match will be on Tuesday, June 10th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time against Guatemala. Next up on the list of, top team players, we have Andrew Rick, CJ Olney, Sal Olivas, and David Vasquez. So they're on the US 19 team. They had a 1-1 draw with Spain. Rick and Vasquez were starting that, and Olivas came in on the 87th match. Vasquez exited on the 72nd, and CJ Olney was not used. Again, some of the younger players getting some recognition out there. Frankie Westfield also had a match. Now, according to Jose, there was a bit of a broadcast issue, so they couldn't even see
Mhm.
the game. It remains unclear if Westfield even played in that match. They just know that he did not start in their match on, I guess, this past weekend. I guess one of the bigger names that we have to talk about is Stanley Jean Jacques.
Mhm.
Again, he scores a goal. It seems like every time he plays with Haiti, he scores. Now, I think across the board, people would say Danley has been the best player this season. I mean, how good is it for you to know that not only is he playing well, but he's scoring goals out there with Haiti too?
Yeah, what a signing for the Union. I mean, he has been everything you hoped he would be and more, I think. And it's great to see him having the success with Haiti. And I definitely put him up there as one of the MVPs of the season so far. So fantastic to see, and backing up a second to the U20s as well.
Yeah.
Shout out to Frankie for getting to have that experience there. I was trying to find the information as well. Like, it's so hard to come by some of the information
Yeah.
for these national team games. It's just something just not being streamed. There's hardly any info. I found stuff on Football, but I did see Frankie posted he was out on a camel around the pyramids at Giza. So
That's
just getting
awesome.
that whole experience, that's incredible. And I'm happy he gets to experience that. So
And we'll talk about lack of streams when it comes to the Atlas match in a little bit. We'll get there. We have a lot to talk about. Again, Haiti will play on Tuesday, the same as Blake on June 10th as well. They play against Curacao. Kevin had a couple matches as well. He had a 3-2 loss to Sweden. He started in that match, and then they lost in PKs to Canada in a match that Kevin did not feature. I think probably one that you and I are probably most excited about is the fact that Quinn Sullivan and Nate Harriel played in the friendly against Turkey. Now, we know Jack McGlynn scored a banger to start that match quite literally within the first minute. But Quinn Sullivan rocking the number 7 on his first ever call. Harriel as well played. Any thoughts on that match? I know you watched it significantly more than I did, so I don't know if any thoughts on those two players.
Yeah, so we were listening to that and Kyle was driving and I was watching it on my phone as we were going to the game. And so that goal by Jack, of course, was incredible. And as soon as he got to the top, near the top of the box, I'm like, he's going to rip it.
Yeah.
It's coming. And that left foot, it was great to see. And I need to add too the fact that Kevin Casey was the PA announcer there for that match was awesome because he got to call the McGlynn goal and also Quinn and Nate subbing on as well. So that's really special, and all the union connections with the players in that game. So that was really, really amazing. But it was funny. I remarked to Kyle, I'm like, well, Jack's wearing number 6, Quinn's wearing number 7. It was June 7th, and also all the kids are saying 6, 7. And if you're not around middle schoolers, you may not know that whole trend, but if you do, all these is 6, 7, and I teach this all day long. So I'm like, wouldn't that be perfect? Number 6 scored, number 7 scored on June 7th. That would have been really cool.
That would have been the stars aligning on that one.
Right. But no, really happy for Jack with that. And for Quinn and Nate to get the opportunity as well in there. So that was, definitely amazing for them.
Absolutely. Dave Miller just joined us. Dave, I'm going to bring you in really quick as we continue the comments, and I'll shoot to you in a second, buddy, so we can catch up here. Real quick, Joe mentions we need a live stream as well for when Eintracht and Philly play in August. Eintracht, rather, and Philly play in August, and not for me, but for my classmate and her German husband. Valerie says, I thought Jack was going to have a brace, but no such luck. I guess going back to McGlynn, too, I was telling you before we joined the show, Jillian, that Anderlecht, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, is eyeing FC Houston Dynamo central midfielder Jack McGlynn. Per RSCA update, the 21-year-old American joined Houston this winter from Philly, as we all know, and he stood out this MLS season with 2 goals, 3 assists, and an average of 3 chances created per game. After scoring for the U.S. men's national team against Turkey, it seems like a move to Europe might be in the books here. So it seems like Jack McGlynn's catching everybody's attention. Now, Dave, I'll go to you first on this one. Any surprise that McGlynn has gotten some attention? Is it just because of that goal yesterday, or what's the vibe on McGlynn now overseas?
Admittedly, I don't think there's much, especially in English circles, maybe. You don't really hear much about Jack McGlynn, but again, I feel like there's probably agents and there's probably, scouts who look at the MLS and they see that left foot and that potential and they see a weapon there. I mean, we've seen it with the Union and we've seen it with Houston Dynamo this year. Some of the goals he scored have been phenomenal. And then again, it's set piece work last year. The Union have Kai Wagner, who's obviously a set piece specialist himself, but I think Jack McGlynn was probably just as good. I mean, teams in Europe especially would look at a player like that and know they can utilise that and make a weapon out of him. I'm sure teams have been looking at Jack McGlynn. I'm pretty sure we've mentioned probably before that Jack McGlynn's been a target for European clubs. So, I think, again, obviously a great moment for him yesterday on the international stage, but I guess for him now the big one is going to be going into the Gold Cup and trying to nail down a place permanently as the national team head towards the big World Cup next year. But I mean, and obviously I caught what Gillian was discussing there. I mean, Quinn Sullivan and Nate Harriel getting on the pitch, but I mean, it was a bit like a Philadelphia Union reunion yesterday, wasn't it? With the or just this international break, really. I mean, the Aronson brothers, Mark McKenzie, Harry Sullivan, McGlynn, Matt Freese in goal. Like,
Yeah, that's right. Jillian, how did Matt Freese do in that? Any noteworthy from Freese? I know there was 2 goals given up, but I don't think they were all entirely his fault.
No, they weren't entirely his fault. And yeah, I thought he did okay. Again, like I didn't see everything going on with that, but I have to say I thought he did pretty solid job. It was definitely a deserved start. He's been playing really, really well, and I think we all knew he was going to take off. It was tough being behind Andre there, but it's great to see him thriving, even if it's at a rival team during MLS season. But I'm really excited for him getting this opportunity with the national team. But yeah, you can't put both those goals on him entirely. I mean, the defense broke down, and that the first goal definitely that wasn't on him. That was a bad stroke of luck there, honestly.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and the second goal that was unfortunate, but yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the last bit of international duty we'll talk about, Jose also highlights Ross Kane, the Union 2 assistant and goalkeeper coach, is helping Puerto Rico international for the national team to go to the World Cup qualifier for 2026. And they said they had a narrow 1-0 result to Suriname, but will look to bounce back against St. Vincent and the Grenadines on Tuesday, June 10th. And then Marlon LeBlanc's teams are doing pretty well. They had defeated France in penalty kicks after a 2-2 draw. They won against Argentina 2-0, and they also had a pretty exciting match 3-2 against Australia. So now LeBlanc has his team going to the tournament final. So it's really nice to see how the Union's Academy has just kind of placed their fingerprints all across the national team. I mean, you go from the bottom, like younger kids, all the way to the top national team that we saw yesterday with Nathan and Freese and Quinn, all that stuff. I mean, Dave, talk about how much influence this academy and this franchise is having on the U.S. men's national team, and how impressive it is as well for how many of these young players are doing so well. Because not every single player that comes out of the academy is going to be a stud, but it certainly seems like they're just hidden across the board with all this young talent.
I agree. I think it's, again, pretty awesome. And just not just to see, well, I think we've seen throughout the years, haven't we? Like the Union, like especially that core group that all came up together, Harry Freese, Sullivan, Paxton,
McKenzie.
You could probably pro Brendan in there as well, but like players that obviously have played integral parts, and especially the US sort of youth teams, the Olympics, and the under 20, under 21 squads, under 22 squads, however that's structured. So it's been cool to see, but again, like to now see these guys take that next step and actually get to the men's teams. Fantastic. And as you said, there's even more people and players who perhaps aren't with the Union now, but have history with the Union, or flourishing still within the US men's national team system, whether that's in the senior team or, as you sort of said, within the youth ranks, or even behind the scenes. It's just awesome to see. And I think, again, as you sort of said, that could be like an attractive influence for younger, not just for perhaps players to join the Union, but perhaps younger academy players hoping to find their breakthrough in the game. If they've got options of American academies or the academy teams, they can look at it and go, well, the Union 2 is a clear pathway. The Philadelphia Union Academy system's a clear pathway, not just the full men's game, but also the international stages. Do you know what I mean? So I think the Union could probably develop quite a nice selling package, or a way to sell the academy if they have got top prospects who are looking at potentially joining the team.
Absolutely. And one final thing before we touch upon the Atlas match and the U2 merchandise they saw in the shop. So Carnell had spoke, I think, with Sage over this past week regarding some of the injuries that we currently have. So Michael Uwa had the injury after the Dallas match, but Ty Baribo has suffered an injury while he was with the Israeli national team. I don't think he actually may have even made the trip, but he came back. He got removed from international duty. The injury, as of right now, I believe, is still unclear, but he only has 6 days before the match against Charlotte. So that was the only, I'd say, unfortunate part about this international duty break that we have, is that everybody's doing so well. We went down this whole list of all these great things, all the way from Marlon LeBlanc all the way to Quinn Sullivan and everywhere in between. But to have Ty Baribo hurt with an unknown injury, Jillian, feels kind of scary. I don't know how you felt when that news broke about Baribo.
Yeah, that was not good. And yeah, we really don't have a ton of details on it. It did look like on his Instagram that Ty at least got to go be in Israel and get some relaxation time, which is good. I know he posted him being like in the pool and stuff, which great therapy, by the way, being in the pool. So so I don't know the severity of what it is. Hopefully he'll be good to go. But and that also worries you because Mikalua took a knock too. Now he was down on the sideline yesterday, walking around with Jan Glavinovic before the match, and so I think with him it was a little more precautionary keeping him out too. I mean, why risk it with him right now? But with how hot he's been, gosh, you really hope that Ty will be good to go. But wait to hear what updates we get on that. Hopefully we'll know more on Thursday, assuming that's when Carnell does a presser, and sure to be finding out about that. So definitely be asking.
Definitely, we certainly will. But let's touch on yesterday's match and yesterday's events and the whole thing from the tailgate to the game, fans, etc. So, Jillian, I know you have been covering the U2 for quite some time now. And one of the big things surrounding U2 is their jerseys, their kits. They've always had good kits, even dating back to Bethlehem Steel days. And it just never seemed to click for the Union to get those jerseys into the shop. Now, did you go to the Union 2's championship game in Texas?
Okay, I did.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. They were selling their second team kits there, right?
They were. They had North Texas kits there at the Soccer 90 shop right that's attached to the stadium.
Exactly. So we all thought, why aren't the Union capitalizing on what people are? Even Joe mentioned here, we want kits. Everybody across the board on Twitter, Facebook, saying these kits are so great. Even this year's, which had some controversy with the whole yellow back, which I still liked. People want these things. So, Dave, I don't know if you've seen this picture yet, Dave, but this is what they put into the Union shop yesterday. I have a picture right here. Give me 1 second as I bring it up. It's just like a basic blue t-shirt. It has the Union 2's logo just right in the center, and that's it. Jillian, do you know how much this t-shirt costs?
Yep, it was $35.
$35, Dave. And now I know things are different over there in England, Dave, but would a shirt like this go for $35 over there? And would you pay for a shirt like that for $35?
Especially, if it's the proper Union shirt, a t-shirt for the Union, probably would. I mean, for the reserve team or youth team, probably not. No, I think it's a different thing between America and especially perhaps European British was the fact that you guys have different kits for all your different teams, like reserve teams as well. That the youth teams have their own kits, whereas over here they typically just wear the same kits as the first team, and it all trickles down all the way through.
Right.
I think that might be the thing, but I guess again it's another unique selling point of trying to make more money. Probably, I mean, trying to make more money. They're not even selling the kits, but do you know what I mean? I think it's just bizarre, but especially for gear like that, a t-shirt like that, where it's just a very basic printed logo on it for the second team is just $35. That's just bizarre.
Joe mentions here, seriously, for a small Union 2 shirt, come on, Bethlehem Steel FC shirts were cheaper than that. And Valerie says, and better. Jillian, I want to hear your thoughts on this. I know Kyle got you one, which I get. Sometimes you just got to get all the merch you can. But
yeah, I'm a sucker.
I'm left really disappointed by it. I don't know if you feel the same.
Yeah, I mean, I was initially really excited too. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's Union 2 shirts. That's awesome. Yeah. But then it's like, well, I mean, it's pretty basic. And speaking of Jose's comment about that's a cricket effort, yeah, I've had students at school that come, their mom has, a cricket, and they've come with homemade Union shirts before that were really sweet and better than anything you probably find in the store. Just saying. But, it's a start. It's nice to see some Union 2 representation there. Yeah. I will say that with a lot of the teams, though, the Next Pro kits are better than some of the first team kits.
Yeah,
Cincinnati's a good example. Cincinnati's is a lot better than their main kit, I think. And I do like the Union 2 kits this year, although I'm not crazy about the yellow back of it, but the front's fine. But I thought last year's alternate jersey was a lot better. I like that better than the first team one.
It was awesome.
Yeah, and so it was when we were in the shop at for the next Pro Cup there, and we were in the shop, and they had the jerseys for North Texas. They had scarves for North Texas too, by the way
Really?
there.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think they might have had some t-shirts too, but they had on display in honor of the next Pro Cup going on. They had mannequins and they had a Union 2 jersey on it. And then they had a North Texas jersey and they had the trophy there, which was pretty cool.
That
But
is
I'm
cool.
like, this is such a tease seeing the Union 2 jersey right there. But there's enough people asking for it. I mean, other teams do sell their jerseys. I understand, there's a little more to it, but yeah, it's just it's unfortunate because people want it. There is a demand. So even if they could make like a limited run of them, I don't see why they can't do that.
So here's the thing. So Jose mentions here, Union 2 kits are better than the first. I see that argument. Jose, I don't think you're alone in that by any stretch of the imagination. So as Valerie mentioned earlier, I'm wearing an Annapolis Blues kit, right? It's a very small stadium. They only have like 8,000 people coming to those games. What they did, they didn't have a shop. They had like just a big tent right outside the seating area, and they had 2 fold-up tables, and they just had like storage containers, like those little plastic bins. They had about 9 of them lined up, and they said we have medium, small, large of all these things here. They had the prices. They probably had no more than like 100. I mean, barely that. And guess what? They're sharp looking. Like, I mean, if people look down, it's a solid looking kit. Not too expensive. This was $65. The blue one I had was $45 because I bought it like at a restaurant next door. But people were going up and getting it, and it was like they had hats. Like this hat I bought too as well. They had scarves that was made by a fan. Like, you know how they have the Sons of Ben fan scarves? The scarf they had there was, and it was just a small selection. It was not crazy by any stretch of the imagination. But every time someone walked by, they stopped by, looked at the table, and picked up even the smallest thing. It just feels like the Union are missing out on, even if it's a small demographic, they're missing out on money. That's it.
Absolutely. And to think, like, it makes you wonder, had they won the next Pro Cup, would they have actually maybe considered it, with all the demand? You saw how many people showed up for the playoffs. They were at an all-time high with the attendance, with the interest in it. Like, come on, it's the Union we're talking about. Like, why would they not want to make some money here? It blew my mind. I don't know why they wouldn't do it. So,
and listen, credit to Kyle Wood and all the guys from the Bridge Brigade. Dave, I don't know if you saw on Twitter, the Bridge Brigade made their own scarves. And actually they came out fantastic. Really, really nice scarf. Joe and I actually just bought one each this past month when they released them. And that's
got
it.
one too.
And guess what? You got one too? Yeah, perfect. So it's like, okay, maybe they sold 50 or so at the most, probably not even that much, but they made money off it. I don't see why the Union can't do the same. Jose says, is my kit white? That one is dope. No, Jose, yours is the blue one that I have. I have a blue one too. I bought you the blue one. If you want this one, Jose, next time I go to a Blues game in Annapolis, I can pick up this kit for you. Joe says that's what Steel FC had as well, playing at Goodman Stadium. They had 2 big tents just for merch. Sure. Exactly. So like the Union have done this already. They've already walked down this path. So it feels like they're just missing the boat here. Now we'll stick with the merchandise topic here because I was really disappointed again yesterday because as you guys heard on my last show, one of the reasons why I went down to this match yesterday against Atlas FC because I was hoping there'd be vendors outside the stadium. As we see every time a Mexican team comes, there's always some sort of vendor, whether it be food, clothing, etc. And there was absolutely zero. Jillian, did you see any vendors at all yesterday afternoon?
Nope, I did not. And a lot of times there's more fans too that are there for the Mexican teams, and there really wasn't a whole lot, it seemed. So yeah, there was a small group over in like the visiting section, and then I know there were some spread out. But I was really shocked actually at the lack of vendors.
I was shocked. I mean, the crowd itself was maybe similar to what we saw in the Open Cup against Indy 11 on a Wednesday. Probably similar crowd. It wasn't too much. There was a few Mexican fans scattered in the Sons of Ben. I mean, the river end, a little bit here or there. They had the small contingency out on that top right corner. Credit them. They probably had like 20 people there. They were actually fairly loud. We heard them pretty good. But I thought there was less than I expected. I know it's not as big as Club America or Cruz Azul or, any of those big Mexican clubs, but still I was like, man, that's it. Like, that's all we got from Atlas. But then I heard going around that the tickets for yesterday's match were like $60. per ticket, from
Mhm.
what I heard. Now, Dave, I don't know how much friendlies cost in England. Is that a price that is typical for you guys over there? Because I was surprised it was that much money for a friendly.
No, especially for a friendly like that. Especially for a friendly where like half your squad's in international duty, like absolutely not. Like, do you feel like you do get some really good value like friendlies? I know like Arsenal they do like I don't know if they do it every year now, but they do. You should do the thing called the Emirates Cup. It's like a full team mini tournament where like each team would play 2 games over the course of a weekend, and you get to see 2 games at the same day for the price of like £30, which is probably like $45. So
Yeah.
you get to see 2 games between like 2 top European clubs in a preseason friendly where they're playing most of their better players, and for $45, no disrespect to the Union or Atlas, like you're probably paying £45 to see the Union play half their reserves and an Atlas team who probably weren't at full strength either, in comparison to them paying £30 to see, I don't know, say Arsenal, Sevilla, Red Bull Leipzig, and Monaco or something like that, and you're paying £30. And you think you weigh up the difference of that sort of in terms of like friendly games. Like it's just again, people, unfortunately, I guess people are going to pay it, and I guess teams know they can get away with it at that sort of level. Unfortunately.
And that's the thing. And Julian, I want to shoot to you next in a second. Let me bring up Jose's comment. He says confirmed $58 from the Union's website, much cheaper on SeatGeek. And Joe mentions here, like you can kind of get cheaper elsewhere. Still like 40, $50 for a friendly seems pretty steep. Valerie mentions SeatGeek had them for some 20 some. So I guess if you're really looking for tickets there, that's fine. But for the Union to be selling themselves for that much money seems kind of absurd. I would not have cared if the Uni were selling for like 30, $40, fine. But like to go upwards into the 60s and there's going to be the fees top added to it, looks like you're spending like 65, $70 a ticket after all the fees and taxes go into it. I mean, Jillian, you think the price is a little too high for them? Did they maybe think that people were going to shell out that money regardless?
Yeah, 100%. I think that price is outrageous for a friendly. And you see how many people showed up. So they definitely, I think, either they were thinking more people would actually show up, maybe that more fans of Atlas would show up or whatever, but I guess they thought wrong because it was pretty empty and a lot of the season ticket members just didn't go.
Yeah.
And $58 is outrageous. So I really think that they could have gone cheaper there and had more success. But I just, remember there was that friendly with Pachuca a couple of years ago, and that one was lightly attended as well, but I don't know what the price was for that. But, I think that even had more people though. Actually, there was quite a few of the Pachuca fans that were around, and they were kind of fun actually. So I don't know, that's a big shame because I know that, some of the Latino population around, it'd be great to get more of them involved in going to the Union games because I think they bring a lot of good energy. So missed opportunity in my opinion.
Absolutely. Jose says here, the question is, how much was parking? And I honestly forget. I paid parking. I think it was at least over $20. I don't think it was less than that. I don't know, John. Did you guys have to pay for parking, or did you get the media parking pass?
No, we had our usual season ticket member parking. Yeah. So I imagine it was the same as it usually is.
I paid for parking, Jose. That's all I know. I can open my bank account real quick to check. But one of the things that kind of Jose was talking about in his one comment, and we'll kind of segue into that as well, was the lack of stream. So there was no way to stream yesterday's match. Jillian, actually, I want to give you a little round of applause because you did a great job posting videos and pictures, and you were basically covering the entire match. And there was only about 2 or 3 people in the press conference yesterday at all to begin with. Mm-hmm. But there was no stream of the game. So let's say, hypothetically speaking, you are a family, an Atlas family, that just can't afford to go. Understandable, right? Times are tough. But you still want to watch your favorite team play. There's nowhere you can watch it, which I just think, again, is another missed opportunity. We're talking about bringing the Latino fan base into the stadium and getting more people involved. And it's just like, how hard is it to set up a rinky-dink camera up there and just have it go back and forth? Even if it's not the best quality, at least you're watching the game. I mean, Dave, do you guys stream your games over there, your friendlies over there? Because it seemed kind of ridiculous that in 2025 we can't do it over here.
I think it depends on the sort of club, really. I mean, you might sometimes live stream a friendly, or another club might do it, and then you just provide that access to the link or stream. I know a lot of the Premier League clubs definitely do, especially when they go out on tour like all over the world. They'll have it on their own personalised TV channel. But yeah, I think it's definitely more common among bigger teams like Premier League clubs as opposed to the smaller teams. You might sometimes get the occasional stream of a preseason friendly here or there, but it's probably not going to be as big of a or as high of a quality stream perhaps as you get from a Premier League one, where you would get full blown commentary of the game, multiple camera angles. But yeah, I say it definitely depends on the level. And I think obviously with an MLS club, you'd probably expect it to be the quality of coverage to probably be a bit higher. Because I mean, I know at Gills, like we'll cover all the preseason games, even if we don't film the games.
Mm-hmm.
We'll provide like Twitter coverage, a match report, Facebook coverage, and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Jillian, I mean, disappointed that there's no streaming or any sort of like video content that we could have watched the game on.
Yeah, and I know Jose, I think, had mentioned it, yesterday, that why couldn't they have at least done a stream where, okay, they charge you for it, people pay for that, and like he mentioned, like we did for the preseason match, and yeah, people do that, and why would they not want to make a little money off it? I'm again kind of shocked at that, but they definitely did have cameras going. We saw nice clips of, Marcus and Eddie's goals. And so there were some cameras going for sure, but I still don't understand why they couldn't stream it. I remember the Pachuca game, there was no stream of that either. So yeah, that friendly a couple years ago. So definitely a shame, missed opportunity. And, but yeah, and I did try to get as many clips as I could, that were relevant. So people could see some of them. And I was lucky enough to get both goals. Just have good timing on that. But
yeah, I saw that. I was like, are you just like monitoring this game? Like,
yeah, I mean, there were not many of us even in the press box. So it was pretty empty. And we didn't even have a post-game press conference with Bradley. It was just like, all right, you guys can go talk to, you get to talk to these players. But that's it. Like, we talked to Marcus and Eddie afterward. So, and actually Leandro Soria as well. He spoke in Spanish, and I don't really know Spanish, but I recorded it anyway. So, and then I got the gist of what he was saying. But anyway, it was, the whole thing was definitely different. We'll put it that way. So.
Yeah. Also, before I touch upon the match and some details there, I know it's just a friendly, so we won't talk about it too much, but I do want to talk a little bit about the game and the players we got to see. But to answer your question, guys, I paid $30 for parking yesterday. $30 for a friendly, which seems kind of ridiculous. So again, if you're paying the ticket value that Union are putting out for $58 a ticket, it's it can be like $100 $150 if you're bringing 2-3 people. It's an expensive time out. So I was disappointed, especially for any Hispanic fans that want to go that maybe don't have the best income either, especially in Chester, that lower income area. You're pricing out that crowd, which are interested in playing. They want to go too. So that was, I see that now in my bank account. I don't know why I spent that much, but here we are. So let's talk about this Atlas match really quick. It was a 2-1 result. We had goals by Marcus Anderson as well as Eddie Davis. Very nice goals as well, especially Marcus. It was a fantastic goal. But we did see some of our starters as well. We saw Kai Wagner. We saw, I have it right here. I don't know why I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. The lineup right here was Semele in net, Glessis, Olivier, Wagner, Macania, Bueno, Bedoya, Raffanello, Ben Bender, Damiani, and Chris Donovan as a starting 11. Any surprise there for you, though, Jillian, off that starting 11? Anyone you were surprised to see even playing yesterday?
Honestly, I wasn't surprised by the starting lineup too much. I kind of figured that it would be those guys. And especially, with then having Union 2 players rounding out most of the bench. I mean, that was pretty much what I figured. I knew Mikel was probably going to be resting, so I didn't expect to see him. But yeah, I was saying with Kyle earlier, I'm like, well, you do still have a good amount of guys that are behind, still here. So I think we'll see them for a bit and probably see a lot of changes at halftime, which is what happened. So yeah, pretty unsurprising, to be honest.
Absolutely. I wouldn't say disappointed. I was hoping that Wagner was not going to play at all. I bring the picture up again just because he's played a lot. Now, I know Jose and I had our show recently where we talked about, like, this is great that Kai Wagner got to miss an entire match. I would not have really cared if he missed another match and gotten a full 2 weeks off. I'm glad Glesson's played. He only played for 45 minutes. That was fine. I know Kai Wagner only played for 45 minutes, so I guess they got their game, their game
Mhm.
training in. I'm glad at least Carnell realized we're not playing them for the full 90 minutes. I believe Lukic played 45 minutes as well in the second half.
Mhm.
Did Bender play the entire match? I can't remember off the top of my head. I think maybe
He came
Vasilov
off.
replaced him. Okay, he came off.
Yeah, he came off in the second half. Not he didn't come off like at the half, but he did come off at some point during the second half.
Okay,
As I
gotcha.
recall. There were 5 subs at halftime. So yeah, and it was like a lot. It was funny because I was in the middle of typing what the subs were, and then Marcus went and scored. I'm like, wow, that was quick.
Right.
Because there were so many of them. But yeah, so the 5 changes at halftime, Nick Pariano, Neil Pierre, Isaiah LaFleur, Jovan Lukic, and Marcus Anderson, they came on and replaced Glesnes, Macania, Wagner, Bueno, and Damiani.
Mhm.
And then and that's when we saw like Bizo moved over to center back, which
Yeah,
Jim had said
interesting.
last year that he could play it at a pinch. And well, we saw it. We didn't have to see Chris Donovan play center back though, so at least there was that.
Disappointed. I wish I could have seen that.
Yeah, but and then I think it was right after Atlas scored. That's when there were subs. That's when Eddie, Stas, and Indy came on, and that's when Donovan, Bedoya, and Bender went off. So that was like around the 62nd minute, somewhere around there.
Gotcha. And just to recap the subs, or rather the bench that we had yesterday was Sheridan, Pierre, LaFleur, Periano, Lukic, Vasiliev, Stas, Marcus Anderson, Soria, and Davis. Now, I know we've seen photographs of Stas. I've never seen him in person before.
Mm.
I did not realize how built this kid is. I mean, he is like
He's tall, too.
I was telling Kyle, I was like, this kid looks like a tight end out there playing soccer amongst a bunch of boys. And there was a one conversation that I think Kyle and I believe your friend Dave, right, was his name, or yeah, one of the conversations I was having with them. Chris Donovan's obviously the 4th option off the bench now. You have, there's injuries at this current point in time with Ua and Baribo, but when healthy across the board, you have Donovan as your 4th striker. And I'm thinking, like, God, I would love to see a little mix up there. Marcus really, really showed out yesterday. I thought he had a really good strike on net. He played, I think, fine overall. We always knew he had this really high engine on him. I would love to see someone like Stas with just a big body, just getting like that Corey Burke type of, holding up the ball, really getting physical, bruising those center backs and that defensive line. So, I mean, Dave, I don't know about you. If you, I know right now we're winning, everything's going okay, but God, I mean, would you not want to see some rotation with that 4th striker just to see what you can get out of these other players? Because Chris Donovan is just Chris Donovan at the end of the day.
No, I think you said. I mean, you definitely want to perhaps see what else you can get out of your 4 strikers. I think, fun enough, I think we had a little conversation in one of our chats earlier today, sort of discussing Marcus Anderson. I completely forgot he existed until I saw he scored yesterday. Because again, I was saying to Mike and Jose, I thought probably the first month or 2 at the start of last season, I thought he actually was one of the perhaps more brighter sparks to come in. He was energetic. I thought he looked positive in the appearances he made, and he sort of disappeared with like a faux injury or whatever, and with an injury or something, and was just never seen again last season. Obviously, hasn't been seen again since. But again, it was nice to see him get an appearance yesterday and score as well, which is obviously good, and hopefully that might keep in the back of Bradley Carnell's mind and could maybe get him with a look in, especially if there are injuries to Mikelua and Baribo in the longer term. People are going to have to step up and show that they can produce. And if that's Marcus Anderson or someone else, then it's put himself in a good position to potentially, push to be involved if there are absentees in coming fixtures.
Absolutely. Now, Jillian, I know you're the Union 2 expert here, so I would love to know, who would you want to see replacing Donovan a bit up there? Because I think Marcus Anderson's a great one, but I would love to know if you think another forward or striker could maybe fill in that role that we really don't know enough about because we just don't see them play.
Yeah, so I've been really high on Marcus Anderson for a while. Last year, I thought he was doing really well at the beginning as well. That Portland game, he was really good. Yeah, he had the blunder against Cincy, and he did have several bouts of injury. He just kept getting injured and having really rotten
Yeah.
luck. And I remember asking Jim Curtin last year about, how Marcus was doing, and he was doing well and everything. And Jim would say, well, it's, it is a big jump from MLS Next Pro to first team, and it is, but also you don't know really what they can do until you throw them in there, which Marlon told us as well. And I asked him what he thought about, if Neil, could hang up there with the first team and everything. And he's like, well, let him see if he can sink or swim there, and but yeah, with Marcus, I think with him too, it seemed like he had some mental things to battle through. And I asked him last night about what the goal on Tuesday. He had a goal and 2 assists against FC Cincinnati too on Tuesday, and he just looked incredible and really unselfish ball. And Ryan Richter talked about this when we talked to him. Really unselfish ball to Malik Jakupovic when he scored his goal on Tuesday. So Richter was really, really happy with how Marcus was doing. And he's been using him as a 10 in some cases too. Like he can play striker. Yeah. And he really thinks he fits in well there. And it's shown. Like he is really good at feeding the ball in there, really good at creating there. So he has some versatility. He can play, up at the top. He can play striker. We saw him do both last night. So I think he's always had a good chemistry with Eddie on the field too, which it was there last night too. So I think that was big in their game on Tuesday. And then to see him come in and immediately get that goal, just you could tell he really wanted to prove something, and he was hungry for it. And yeah, it was. So that's really great to see. So, and he battled injuries at the beginning of the season too, so it kind of set him back. So I would rather kind of see him get a shot. No offense to Chris Donovan, but I'd rather see at this point Marcus get a shot. And he's got good speed, but yeah, he's really good at just being in the right place where he needs to be. I know he just missed heading a goal in last night too. Like he had some chances. So, and he can blast the ball. I mean, you all saw the goal last night, but he does that. So I also think that Eddie, he was the top goal scorer for Union 2 last year. 13 goals in the regular season, 1 in the Next Pro Cup. And it was a big change actually. They were firing on all cylinders in the Next Pro Cup that first half. And then Marcus got hurt. He can't come on. And if anyone hasn't seen the feature on Apple TV, or no, it was on YouTube, I think. I forget. It was on one of them. Anyway, that the Next Pro folks put out about the playoffs and the Next Pro Cup, a really good 5-episode feature. And it just shows what the team's going through in the locker room at halftime at the Next Pro Cup. And you just see Marcus just he's in pain, and it's like he wants to be out there, and they're trying to pull together for Marcus and get it done. And it was a really tough watch. If anyone watches it, the last episode is kind of tough watching that again, especially as someone who was at the game, watch that in person. But when Marcus left the field, there was definitely a change in the second half. And also I think they were just they were tuckered out that second half. They gave it their all that first half, and just North Texas was slightly older. They just were able to bring it. But anyway, I think Eddie has a lot of upside. You see what he came in and did. I think he also has something to prove. I mean, think about it too. Some of his teammates got called for the national team. Okay.
Sure.
And you see that happening. Maybe that's a little bit more motivation. Hey, look at me. I'm also doing really well. And I think he's very motivated. We had him on our podcast last year. Great kid to talk to. He's very motivated. He's very grounded, and he has big goals. And I think he's one that he's steadily improving as well. I think sometimes that he has, Sal got called national team, is great for Sal. I'm really happy for Sal. I think sometimes Eddie has looked like the stronger one. Not to take anything away from Sal, but yeah, I think if Eddie keeps improving the way he is, I think he's worth giving a shot to, and maybe he can get those national team accolades at some point if he keeps it up. So, but I know David Vasquez, some of these guys, Sal, they came to Union because of the academy and what it offers, and we've seen what they do. So, that's just huge. So, because think back to what you're talking about with the academy. It really does sell itself well.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, there's lots of this young talent coming up. I think Stas, he's got a lot of potential. He sometimes has a bit of a heavy foot. Kind of reminds me of Sam Adeniran
No,
last
I was
year.
just about to say, as soon as you said heavy foot, I was like, don't you dare
Mhm.
say it. And you
He
did.
reminds me of Sam sometimes, but I think Stas could definitely do well too. I think he's been doing a nice job with Union too. So we'll see.
Real quick before we go to the next topic, Jose says that Stas declined an interview with him after being drafted. So some saltiness from our buddy Jose Nunez. But Jillian, I'll ask you a little lighthearted question here. Who would you rather have as the backup 10 for the first team? Marcus Anderson or Kevin Sullivan right now? Because you did hint at that, so I got to ask you that follow up question then, because I would be super curious to see how Marcus does behind those forwards.
Oh man, that's up because like the thing is, I feel like Marcus wouldn't get bodied off the ball as much. Marcus is like a bull in a china shop sometimes, and I love it. So I think Cavan for his age is incredible. I think he's got great awareness on the field and great skills with the ball. He is really good at passing the ball. I think he does all that stuff really well. I kind of would almost rather see Marcus,
Yeah,
to
of
be
course.
honest. But yeah, they both bring lots of good skills. And honestly, I mean, I think having England playing time with Union 2, I think has been really good for him too. So when they're both on the field, actually, it's pretty good, to be honest.
And we always say, like, Union 2 or MLS Next Pro rather is not on the same
Mhm.
level as MLS. We know that across the board. But Kevin Sullivan is still a 15-year-old boy playing with
Mhm.
18, 19, 20-year-olds in MLS Next Pro. So even if he is seeing minutes there, yes, the talent level and the quality is not as good, but he's still playing several years above his age. I mean, that's
Yeah.
phenomenal for any player that young. But listen, like I said, I would like to see Marcus again. I think early on last season, and Dave, I know you and I talked about this plenty of times last year. Man, Marcus has an engine on him, and he just goes and goes and
Mhm.
goes. And honestly, showing what you mentioned about Eddie too, it reminds me a lot about what happened with Quinn Sullivan last year. Doesn't get the call up for the Olympics, doesn't get any sort of recognition, and he just kind of goes on this tear after that, and he really has shown again this season why he
Mhm.
deserves to be on the national team.
That's a great point. Absolutely. And yeah, it's like it's kind of like bulletin board material, So
Yeah.
yeah.
Valerie says first hydration break of the season, 93 degrees in Portland during the 0-0 game against St. Louis. Holy cow, that's hot. But let's wrap up the show with a bit more of a fun, I guess, lighthearted segment here. We always like to do these little previews, looking back at the season so far. It's basically the halfway point as of right now. So one of the topics I want to talk about today was the team MVP so far this year, the biggest disappointment and the biggest surprise. So Dave, I'm going to shoot to you first. Who is your team MVP so far for our first team, Philadelphia Union?
I think it's a tough one. I think for impact, I've got two. I think Jovan Lukic is probably up there. I think for the impact he's made in this team, I mean, I think he suits the way that Darnley plays so well. I think the two of them in the centre midfield work so well together. Sort of, I think him coming in, the impact he's had, and being just having a bit more of a positive rationale than what's the word? Just a bit more. Not having a hot head in midfield, having a hard hitter, but someone that's not going to lose his rag every 2 minutes and make stupid challenges. And I mean, he scored some cracking goals this year as well. And I think Lukic has been superb. I think also Quinn Sullivan for the way he's adapted so quickly and the way he's even taken the next step this season as well to, really implement himself as a first choice player in the team. Last year and probably the year before that, we were probably sat here talking about when's Quinn going to kick on? He is the most talented player of this group. He probably is the most talented player of this current crop of players coming through. When's he going to kick on? It was just felt like he stagnated, but it feels like that now he's been moved out into a more wider position where perhaps he can utilize his pace and his creativity a bit more, as opposed to the way that Union did play with that sort of diamond where it was so congested in the middle. There was too many bodies in there to perhaps be able to do what to do. I think Quinn has seamlessly taken into that new role this year and has been superb. I think the way that he plays and I think the way that he plays has allowed this new system to flawlessly and seamlessly come in, and
Yeah.
I think he's been such a key contributor to the team this year, and I'm looking forward to seeing him hopefully continue to take these next steps where it feels like it's a shame, but I feel like as he carries on going the way he's going, the next step for him is probably a move abroad, whether that's Europe or elsewhere. I think that probably could be the next step, and it would suck from a Union perspective, but at the same time be awesome to see another Union player, especially a Union graduate, possibly, get that big move to Europe. And I think no disrespect to a Brandon Aronson or a Paxton or whatever, like I think he'd probably be the best suited one to move to Europe. I think if you look at even the way he's bulked up as well this past season, he's like,
big.
he looks physically up. He looks physically up for the task. I think Quinn and Lukic probably 1A, 1B. Probably Sullivan 1A for my team MVP.
That was one concern that I had when Paxton and Brendan both got sent over to overseas was, are they big enough to handle that next level competition? I think Quinn is definitely ready. He's physically very, very well constructed as an athlete. Huge, was it Quadzilla, right? Is what we nicknamed here. But how about you, Jillian? What's your team MVP so far in the first half of the year?
Well, for me, I think it's kind of the easy thing to say is like, oh, Ty Baribo because he has all these goals, but
Sure.
I think also a lot of goals have been coming from elsewhere too. So I think when you look at MVP, like if you take them out, does the production really fall off? Is the team really, missing that piece? And I think that for me, it's like Kai Wagner has just been consistently really a steady force there. And he does so much for just making everything run correctly. But also, I think for me, also Danley. Danley has been incredible for the team as well. And so I think for me, it's probably those two really being tough. I mean, Quinn is a great one to say as well. And I think now that he's finally playing more in a role that suits him, that is the key, because when he was just playing as, striker and, out of necessity. And I know Todd had brought that up with Jim last year, but about Quinn playing striker. But no, I think that's a great response as well to say Quinn. But yeah, for me, I think probably Kai and Danley at this point.
Well, I think it shows the team's depth that there are reasonable arguments to be had for about 4 or 5 players. I agree with both of you, and I know Jose had mentioned in our group chat Danley as well as his MVP. I think Kai Wagner showed how valuable he is when he was gone. Those 2 matches that he wasn't there, you could see the team was noticeably worse without him on there. But if I want to kind of throw a little curveball to this question here that I have, I'd say the MVP is the duo of Lukic and Danley because they've come into this season looking absolutely flawless. It looks like they've been playing together for years, which we've said on the show now multiple times. Danny Higginbottom, the former Union commentator who now does MLS work for Apple, he mentioned Danley is such a great box-to-box defender, but he just goes much more forward than Lukic, but they seem to play off each other so well. If one goes up, the other one stays back, and vice versa. They have this seamless chemistry to them that is, quite frankly, one of the biggest reasons why the Union are as good as they are. And I think to your point as well, Jillian, this team is scoring in different ways, different locations, different players. Well, Lukic and Danley combined have, 5 goals combined on this year? I think Danley has 3 and Lukic has 2. I mean, we never saw that from Martinez or any of our defensive midbacks before. So it's to see that production both offensively and defensively. I think credit to Tanner for bringing those 2 on, but credit to Carnell for pairing them up from the get-go. It's like, this is going to be who we're going to go with in front of that defensive line. I think it's been absolutely phenomenal. Cole mentions here, I'm a little nervous for when we will be missing both Quinn and Danley. Yeah, that's going to be one that it's going to be kind of tough to stomach right there because they have been such key contributors. And now you're taking 2 players from the bench, put them into the starting lineup. Like, okay, where's the depth behind there? I think, Cole, that's a great point. Having those 2 players out is going to be pretty significant, especially just from an energy standpoint. Those 2 guys just run, I mean, nonstop. Valerie mentions recency bias. MVP is Danley. Overall MVP is Kai. It's funny, though. All of us here agreed, and Jose, I guess, mentioned this might be the first time ever that Andre Blake is not a team MVP in our conversation. That's no discredit to Andre. I think that just shows you how good Rick has been. and how
Mhm.
good the players have been in front of that keeper. Next question here, though. Let's talk about biggest disappointment so far this season. Dave, your biggest disappointment so far for the Union?
I mean, it's hard. It's hard to be negative considering how well they've played the season. I think we've said it multiple times in the show now. I think even like Julian, Kyle, Tottenham has been on like. I don't think anyone expected things to go this well, this quickly. But I think my biggest disappointment sounds harsh. He's been injured a lot, but Andre Blake again. It just feels like not so much so of his performances, but perhaps it feels like this is him on the way out, if that makes sense. I think that's probably the more disappointing part of this is perhaps the way that his Union tenure is ending, as opposed to, going out on top, being the best goalkeeper in the league still. There's no doubt he is one of the best keepers in the MLS, but like he hasn't he just hasn't been fit for nearly probably 2 years now, and just he gets to a point. I've said it on the show a couple of times, like really the way you'd want to be talking, probably one or two ways you want to be talking about Andre Blake was one, him leaving the Union was hoping he'd go off to Europe and get a good move in Europe, a big move to Europe, or two, it'd probably be he's reaching 40 years old, or he's reaching up there in his peak and he's heading off towards retirement, but he's still at a good age for a goalkeeper, but it's just the injuries just caught up to him. And it's getting to a point now where he's playing one game, missing 3, playing one game, missing 4, and it's like, at that point for a player, again, he's been a brilliant servant, probably the best goalkeeper in MLS history.
Sure.
To go out like this is just more frustrating than disappointing, but I think it's a disappointment for how, not Blake himself, but just how it feels like the end of his Union career is slowly tailing off, as opposed to how perhaps we'd have all hoped it was, if that makes sense. But I think, again, from a team perspective and team building as well, you can't justify investing that much money in such an asset where they're going to play 11 games in the season, when you could probably argue, again, you look at like Rick or another goalkeeper you could have for a fraction of the price and invest that money elsewhere.
Yeah, Jillian, and it's a tough question, Dave. I think that makes a good point. Who is your biggest disappointment, or what is your biggest disappointment if it's not a player necessarily?
Yeah, no, I was also going to say Andre, because when he's been healthy and he's been in, he's Andre Blake and he's great and he makes some incredible saves. It's just been disappointing how he's just had, again, run of bad luck with these injuries. And it's just, there was really the hope, okay, hopefully he's back in good health and everything after last year. Of course, he missed so much time. Thankfully, unlike last season, you have Andrew Rick in there who's really holding his own and doing a very serviceable job. So, but yeah, it's just disappointing, unfortunately that, Andre has just not been healthy for a lot of the games. And so, for me, that's my biggest disappointment as well.
Absolutely. And Jose just chimes in really quick right here. How about Nate going from medical replacement for the friendlies to going to the Gold Cup? Insane. And that's one topic I didn't mention in my little agenda that I sent you guys was unsung hero. But I think we're going to talk about that as well. I'm sure Nate's going to come into that conversation for unsung heroes of this team. Biggest disappointment. It's really a tough one to think, because you can think Andre Blake. If you want to go to like nitpicking things, because the season has been so great so far, Damiani's lack of goal scoring has been disappointing. Now, again, I know Jose, don't yell at me. It's still a long year. He's still getting used to the system and the club, and he's getting the chances. Most importantly, he's getting the chances. Mm-hmm. He is finding those opportunities. It's just not finding the back of that. So you could say Damiani's lack of performance. If you really want to nitpick, God, maybe Indy Vasilev's finishing and his attempts in the final third have been kind of disappointing. You could even say Jesus Bueno. I'm sorry. I love Jesus. I'm so glad he's getting time, but he's also not exactly playing phenomenal. He's serviceable right now, but I kind of want to see more out of Bueno, just a little bit more. I don't need him to be on Danley's level, nor do I expect him to be on Danley's level. But we saw what he's capable of in the last season, the last 2 seasons, really. If you go back to Lee's Cup as well, so. I've been pushing for Bueno, and he really hasn't done a whole lot in those opportunities. So I'm kind of hoping that he does finally get a chance to score a goal at least, or just have a bigger performance. But again, it's great that we're having trouble finding out a good answer for this, because the season's been great so far. Let's go to a more positive conversation. Oh, actually, you know what? Cole brings up a good one. Glavinovic, great point. He has been hurt almost the entire season. That's a great one, Cole. Yeah, it's disappointing from the sense that we haven't seen him play. and we've had issues at center back, and we haven't been able to resolve them because we're kind of waiting for Glavinovic to come in. So yeah, Cole, that's a great point. It's also been pretty disappointing so far in the first half of the season. More lighthearted topic now is biggest surprise. Dave, we'll go to you first. Who's the biggest surprise for you in the first half of the season?
I think it's probably like 4 or 5 players you could probably argue. I think you can see Andrew Rick obviously coming in and having the impact he's had so quickly at such a young age.
Yeah.
Macania breaking into the team when he looked dead in the water at one point last year, didn't he? Like, he looked sort of like, probably dead in the water's the wrong word, but sort of in terms of a first team perspective, like he just didn't look like he was ever going to get a look in. Didn't look like he was going to be resigned to the U2 and sort of being there until his contract ran out. But I'm delighted for him to have shown enough that he's been able to break into the first team. Yeah. I think there's got to be one player, and that's going to be Frankie Westfield.
Yeah,
100%. I think to come in from out of nowhere really and to really lock down that starting lineup position to the point where Nate Harriel, again, credit as Jose sort of said, has gone from having to be a sort of a makeshift centre back, a left back, and then to do all the other roles, which he's done brilliantly, by the way. But to essentially knock down that right back position himself, having come up through the U2 and everything, to even becoming a US Youth International this year as well. But he's got an under-20 call up this past international break. So again, and he's been fantastic as well. He's been one of the again, I think he's provided great depth and great stability down that right hand side, which has really, really, really helped the team. I think he's not looked out of place. He's not looked exposed at all in games. He's looked composed, looked assured. So it's fantastic to see. And again, another academy player coming up through the ranks and making the wave, and not just the Union team, but the international stage.
How about you, Jillian? As Valerie says, there's no surprise if you watch the second team. Frankie Westfield, of course, was going to have this type of season. But who is your biggest surprise so far?
Yeah, to Valerie's point too, I'm saying, I was definitely not surprised at Frankie doing well. Seeing how he did at Union 2 and how he was just quickly on the rise, and kind of reminded me of Nate Harriel's trajectory a bit. But I knew Frankie had that in him. He's got that dog in him, right? But I think for me also, what was more surprising about that is how quickly he got the opportunity to really show his worth with the first team, because it looked like, maybe he'll get to play off the bench, maybe he'll get some spot starts here, but no, he really went out and seized that opportunity and showed what he can do. But no, for me, I would say Macania. I saw him play plenty with Union 2, and he did okay. I always thought that Neil was the stronger of the center backs last year, but Macania did okay, and he'd make blunders sometimes. But what I think for me was seeing, he finally gets a chance with the first team, and he, does he make some blunders? Sure, he still does, but he seemed to be learning every match. He, every time he gets an opportunity, I think he looks a little bit more confident, a little stronger. So he's been a pleasant surprise on that. And I think for me as well, a big surprise, because I just didn't know as much about him coming in, but was Jovan. Just as soon as he started, he made a quick impact, and I'm like, wow, where did this guy come from? Not only was his play impressive, but he really endeared himself to, the fan base and everything too, very quickly. So it's like, wow, this guy is, you quickly saw Lukic jerseys in the stadium, we'll put it that way. So I think for me, just how he came, I think, better than advertised, and really has made a huge impact. And him being paired with Danley, they're phenomenal. So I think probably he's biggest. I think, another one you could say, Rick, just really stepping up his game. The kid grew too, which doesn't hurt. He definitely grew from last year, and he just, not just in height, but, as well as he gained a lot more confidence. He's able to really communicate well, and with the defense, there's definitely more of being on the same page with them.
Yeah, Jose actually mentioned it in our group chat as well. Macania, he also highlights Nelson Pierre as a surprise so far this season, and I think this kind of goes back to the Baribo conversation we had last year. But the fact that Jim Curtin did not play Macania whatsoever last season, 0 minutes across the board, and now he's coming in, he's starting pretty consistently and playing again. I think he's playing well. I wouldn't say he's playing fantastic, but he's having some pretty solid matches out there. Even if he does have those mistakes, it doesn't seem like it's something that lingers in his mind too much. He doesn't seem to play nervous. He seems to play pretty aggressive overall. I think didn't he get into something with Messi too, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
He did, and Kyle asked him about that actually when he was at training one time.
I love that.
Yeah, it was funny.
That's awesome. Biggest surprise for me, well, first of all, you guys took my answer, so I had to pick something different now. Let's say biggest surprise is somebody who isn't in the rotation at all, but how about Coach Carnell? That's the biggest surprise so far, because we see new coaches come in, even interim coaches, and you'll see that spark, right? Oh, okay, it's a new coach, new blood, but I think what Carnell has done this season has been a breath of fresh air. He has done things that we've been wanting Jim Curtin to do for God knows how fucking long at this point. Like, I'm losing track. But I think what surprised me the most is how fast the players bought in. And I know he mentioned that Bedoya was a big part of that. Of course, the locker room's great. Kai Wagner, Glesnes, Blake, etc. Great locker room guys. Nathan Harriel, also young, good locker room guy. But the fact that he got the leadership to buy in, everyone else underneath that to buy in, and they just are firing on all cylinders. And the substitutions that he's made, I think maybe aside from one game this year, have been really great. Like he really reads the game well. He seems to pull the strings at the right time, and he's given these players a lot of opportunities. And it's something that we just have not seen. Again, as I said, we haven't seen that much from this club over the past few years, and you're missing out on talent like Westfield and Macania and even Bueno or Cavan, like these young players who just deserve some time, and they just are simply not getting it. So I think biggest surprise for me was Carnell. Dave, as you and I know in our preview show for the season, I was not expecting a lot, and it wasn't because I was anti-Carnell. I just didn't think this club was going to come together as fast as it has. And that's Tanner. Yes, he put the chess pieces there, but the mastermind at this point right now behind it all is Carnell, in my opinion. And I think he's been fantastic. So kudos to him. Last one real quick before we wrap up the show. It's actually just over an hour. I feel like Jose Nunez now going over an hour for a show. Dave, your unsung hero this season.
That's a tough one. Unsung hero. I think Nate Harriel was obviously up there. I think I mentioned him earlier just for the way he's been more of a utility player this year more than anything. I mean, he did it a lot last year, but I think this year he's perhaps had to go into a new role of, playing when required at right back, come to fill in at centre half, even left back. He's sort of become Kai's sort of backup as well, left back. But I'm going to throw a name out there, and more for how he's bounced back, and that's Jacob Glesnes, which you wouldn't perhaps, which you perhaps would think unsung hero. He's obviously one of the more established players, but Glesnes didn't have a great year last year. He struggled like large parts of the season, and I think this season he's properly bounced back and looked back to his best, and I think that's been great for him especially. I think he's been a major part of why that back four or back five, including the goalkeeper, has been so solid throughout the entire season. He looked back to his best, I think. Just having him back at his best, and I think we saw it last year as well. How bad the team was defensively last year as well. Like when Blake was out, and Elliot didn't have his best year either. But I think having him play at his best and being that calm presence at the back with quite a young, typically two younger defenders alongside him, whether that's Westfield and Harriel or Harriel and Macania, whatever. Like it's what you need at centre half, a more commanding leader. Then obviously Kai is, Kai's Kai. But yeah, I think definitely Jacob Glesnes, I think, has definitely been back at his best this year, and I think that has been a more underrated reason of why the team has been as good as it's been.
Sure. Jillian, how about you?
Yeah, I was actually going to say Glesnes as well, because he really has bounced back this season. And his defense has been a lot better. He's really made some good plays, and you don't worry quite as much. And I think the fact that there's been, because of the subbing and everything too, he's not been run into the ground as much as well. I'm also going to say one that might be a little controversial with some people, but Mikel Ua.
Yes.
Okay. Hear me out on this one.
I loved it. I was going to say that too, so go ahead.
Yeah, so behind Kai and Quinn, guess who has the third most assists on the team?
Mikel Ua.
Yep.
Mika.
And yeah,
Carnell
he's got 4 on the season actually.
Yeah.
I know he only has 2 goals, but he has 4 assists, and he is so good at setting up Ty. Like, I know we had that Kai Ty, partnership, but also I know like people want more goals out of a striker like Mikel, especially, the signing that he was, but a lot has to be said for just how good he is at setting up the goals, how good he is at setting up Ty, especially. And when he's not been in there, like that's been missing. Like, um, I saw the big change when he came off the field at Dallas, and you know Ty was like less effective. I thought just the attack was less effective. And so he really is doing a lot of the dirty work that it doesn't always show up as obvious in the stats. But Mikel has been kind of quietly doing a really decent job. And so many people give him crap, like, oh, he's not scoring enough goals, but he's doing things in other areas as well. And again, I get we want him to score more goals for sure, but he is doing a lot of good stuff that he doesn't always get recognized for.
Exactly. Joe says best Colossus in the first half of the season, Kai Bodnar versus Toronto or Frankie Missile versus Columbus. I have to say Frankie. That was absolutely blasted into the back of the net. I think I said on Twitter or whatever, like if Frankie missed the goal, he probably would have killed somebody in the river. He just struck
Frankie hands down. That goal was incredible.
That was insane. For me, I think I'm going to piggyback on your unsung hero a little bit before I bring in my other choice was with Ua. You think of the assist that he had with Bariba when I think Cavan flicked it to Bedoya, Bedoya flicked it to Michael, and he just kind of shimmies his way to the box. A little chip to Bariba, perfectly done. But I think the assist against Miami, when he runs across the entire box to get to the ball, that shows you, at the end of the day, the stats say assist, Ua, but it doesn't show you the whole picture behind that assist context. And I think I've said a couple times already, I think he's been the best, or I should say the most consistent striker this season so far. Across the board. I think Bariba's got his goal, but he also went cold for a while. Damiani obviously hasn't got on the score sheet yet. So, actually, no, he has. He hasn't been very consistent. So it's just one of those things where he has been a consistent part of this season so far. And he gets hurt against Dallas. And listen, I'm like, crap. Like, I honestly think he's our most important of the top 3. I'm really curious to see how he looks against Charlotte, if he plays against Charlotte, and how he looks this month coming off that leg injury. But I think if I have to finish this up with an unsung hero, I have to say Vasilev. I think he's been a great addition. I know I've said a few times his finishing, his touches at the final third haven't been great, but he is doing what we wanted Gazdag to do from that position. Just that high motor. He doesn't give up. He's never just invisible. You always know where Vasilev is on this field. He's also been really versatile. He's played the defensive mid. He's also played behind the strikers. He's been versatile. He's basically been the utility knife for Carnell in that midfield. And I think, yes, is there room for improvement? Absolutely. But he's also still very young. He's still a young player who's developing. And I think he has been someone who isn't getting the recognition that Danley or Bariba or Ua or anybody else you can think of is on this club. But I think he has been a really important part of why this team is bought in. Carnell knew him too previously. He brought a guy in that he was familiar with. I'm sure that helped with, hey, just trust this coach, trust him. He's a good guy. And I think the players listen to him. And I think Vasilev has turned into one of those on-field leaders very quickly. So I've been pleased with that addition. Still a whole rest of the season to go, and I'm sure he's just going to get better and better. But this wraps up our show. Again, with no official union match, I wasn't sure how much we could talk, but a lot of things happened this past week. So I'm really glad we had a conversation. Dave, any final thoughts before we close this one out?
It's been an interesting week for sure to see, who the team does get back in again as international games over the next coming days as well. So hopefully the team comes out of it, excluding the injuries that to Mikel and Bariba. Hopefully the rest of the guys get through it healthy and are ready for Charlotte next week. Whether Bariba or Mikel are fit enough, who knows? But as we sort of alluded to, it'd be interesting to certainly see who occupies that second striker spot alongside Damiani. Whether it's, probably will be Chris Donovan. Will we see a Marcus Anderson appearance on the bench? Or, hopefully, who knows? But yeah, it's going to be an interesting week for sure, just to see who comes out a bit fit and what news sort of develops on the injury front. And I'm sure that, Carnell will keep his cards close to his chest to make sure that
Sure.
Charlotte don't get the advantage of knowing who's going to start up front, because they could be preparing for Donovan and Damiani, and who are could be fit. Who knows? So, I mean, it's been an interesting week and roll on Saturday next week.
Yeah, Valerie mentioned, crossing your fingers it ties back for Charlotte. And a good thing, too, in terms of just like a health and rest standpoint, you have the match on Saturday, June 14th against Charlotte next week, and we will have a post-game show after that, FYI. But then you have 11 days before the next match on the 25th. So if there is any injuries, if Uwa maybe can't go against Charlotte or Ty Reba, whoever, there's at least a good, 10, 11 days before the next match. There's still more that continued rest. So after that long May, June is really just a breath of fresh air in terms of like getting these guys back into shape and back into fitness. And also for the ones on international duty, like Danley and everybody else we talked about, getting them some downtime too if they're not playing as much. Jillian, final thoughts, any work you have coming out with the one team we agree on, et cetera, plug away.
Yeah, so I think that, it's going to be a big weekend, and it's actually a Carolina double feature coming up next weekend, because not only are they playing, the first team's playing Charlotte, the second teams are playing also then on Sunday at 7 p.m. at Subaru Park. So it's going to be, Crown Legacy at Union 2. So that'll be good to see as well. And hopefully people come out for that. And so that'll be big. And we'll see what happens. I know most of the players should be back for those games. So we'll see what happens in health wise. And I'm hoping to go down to, since I'm going to be done at school after tomorrow, I'm going to have a little more free time. So I'm hoping to go down more often to training and be in person at the pressers and do all that. So people can look for my content that I put out about that. And I put out an article today recapping the game. I have a lot of clips, and I have a 7-minute long video of clips all compiled from the game last night. If anyone hasn't seen it, it's on YouTube and it's on TikTok. On TikTok, I'm at Jillian_Almany. So easy to find that, but I don't post a ton on there, but I do put some things sometimes. And Kyle and I are gonna hopefully record a new podcast tomorrow night for the one team we agree on.
Sweet.
If people can find us at TOTWAG on Twitter, and we're also on Instagram and Facebook and everywhere. And we're going to also be recording this week with the More Philly Union. So, they're a great podcast as well that we've gotten to know. So we're going to be a lot of places this week. So, yeah.
Joe mentions school's out for summer. He's just hyped up. Little Alice Cooper song there. Jillian or Valerie actually just asked, any notice on when Glavinovich will come back? Any word on how he's doing? As you mentioned, he was walking around last night.
Yeah. He and Mikhail were walking around, and I know Jan was taking photos and everything on the sidelines last couple games, along with David Vasquez. But so I know he's been doing some practice off to the side. He's at training and he's been off to the side a bit. I don't know if he's been doing much else at this point, but definitely we'll be looking to, if I go down to training this week, definitely we'll be looking at what's going on with that. And I'm sure if I don't ask, somebody will about how he and everybody else are doing, in the press conference this week. So we'll see. Hopefully he'll be back soon. I think the estimated timeline would have him coming back probably sometime in June, but you just never know with these things. These are tricky. So, yeah.
Now, honestly, if he has to miss a Charlotte match, at least he's got another, as I said, almost 2 weeks before the Chicago game. And then there's honestly 2 games that week. You have the Chicago game on Wednesday night, and then you have the Columbus match on Sunday evening, which is great because I have a wedding to go to. I'm in a wedding on the 28th. So I will be out of commission for at least 36 hours. So I'm glad the game's on Sunday because I get to, not have to worry about missing the game, whatever. Final thoughts for me, though. Like I said, it was a good conversation night. I'm glad I went to the Atlas Friendly yesterday. I had a good time.
Me too.
I thought the competition itself was competitive. I mean, there was definitely not anything friendly about the match. Anytime there's a Mexican club coming in here, it's going to get chippy. Some of those fouls were kind of hard. I was just holding my breath. I think Bedoya got hit really hard at one point, if I remember correctly, too. I'm losing my memory.
Rafa got hurt.
Yes, it was. I think
it was Rafa. He got hurt late in the game, and that's when Leandro Soria came on. And Oh, and on Rafa too. I know he had to be like kind of supported walking off the field.
Yeah.
And I did see him walking around in the mix zone after when I was interviewing players, and he looked like he had a slight limp. He was walking okay, but it looked like he had a slight limp. So hopefully nothing serious. That'll be something to follow up on this week too. But
Yeah.
they were getting kind of banged up there. I know Bruno was taken out a few times too, and
Yeah.
it was getting chippy. I know Bueno was there was a whole little thing at midfield there.
Yeah. He got a yellow, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, Domesticated Hoagie says, literally, we said, who is this coming on? Eddie Davis a third, and then he scores. It was a great sub because he scored literally seconds after he came on, if I remember correctly. So,
Yep.
Hoagie, thanks for joining us tonight. My final thought, again, great conversation tonight. Fun time yesterday. Good to see you, Jillian, as always. I actually forgot to show.
You too.
At the Union Yards, they had these
Oh yeah, show that.
World Cup giveaways. So I got
Mhm.
a free towel. I'm going to try to, if I can put it correctly here. This is just a little Club World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
Super simple towel. And then they had these t-shirts that were given away at Union Yards. This is the back of it. This is the front of it. I was like, free t-shirts and a towel? Sure, why not?
Mhm.
I'll add it to my giant collection that's growing in my room. At this point, I need a room just for my Union and soccer gear because it's getting obnoxious. But yeah, we again, we'll have a post-game show next Saturday after the 7:30 match against Charlotte. I might show up there. I have no idea yet, so we'll see. Besides that, nothing for us. I'm sure Jose is going to be working on a few things. So if he has any content, please keep an eye out for that. Again, Dave GFC Miller, Ember1323 on Twitter, silly_Jilly above me right there. For the ones who agree on, you guys put out great work. And again, I'm really glad I had you on, Jillian, for the Union 2 content because at this point, you and Kyle are just the go-to people for them, which is awesome. Honestly, you guys have done so well. So that's Across the Pitch. Thank you, everybody, for joining us in the comments. We'll be back again next week. And enjoy your Sunday night, everybody. Go Union.
Oop.